They thought I'd smile through it like I always had, quiet, grateful, invisible. But this year, when the last ribbon fell and my name was nowhere in sight, I didn't sit serene. I stood up and gave them something they never expected. The truth. My name is Emma Stone. I'm 33 years old, and 6 years ago I left Portland, Oregon, and never looked back. I worked as a data scientist for a cybersecurity firm that served major banks and government contracts. I wasn't just good at my job, I was essential. I solved problems other teams couldn't even explain, but outside of work, I didn't exist. At least not to my family. We hadn't spoken since 2017, so when my phone buzzed on a quiet Friday night in November 2024, I was stunned to see my cousin's name. Sophie was the only one who had my new number. "Emma," she said softly, "your parents are trying to reach you. They want you to come home for Thanksgiving." I sat down slowly on the edge of my tiny Boston apartment bed. "Now?" I asked. They seemed serious. I hung up and just stared at the wall. I hadn't thought about my family in months. Years, really. But the memories flooded in fast. Always the odd one, never the favorite. I remembered sitting in a cold office chair when I was 13, knees pulled to my chest, while Drew Nin, my childhood psychologist, told my parents plainly, "Emma's struggles aren't from isolation, they're from being ignored." My mother scoffed. "We love both our kids equally," but I knew she was lying. My older brother Ethan was the charmer. Football star, class president, golden boy. He got the car on his 16th birthday. I got a thrift store sweater that still smelled like someone else. Even at Thanksgiving, Ethan's gift sparkled under the tree. Mine were more like afterthoughts. But this year, they were finally calling me back, and they had no idea who I'd become. The call from Sophie lingered like a bruise. I sat in silence, my phone still warm in my hand. "Why now?" I whispered to myself, the question heavy with years of neglect. What do they want from me after all this time? Family gatherings were always a nightmare. Ethan would hold court, loud, charming, magnetic, while I sank into the background like furniture no one noticed. That's when I discovered coding. It started with a dusty flyer taped to the high school bulletin board. "Intro to Computer Science Club, Room 27, Thursdays after school." I went once, then never missed a session. For the first time, I felt seen. The club became my refuge. We rebuilt old PCs from junkyard parts, we traded books, debated compilers, and stayed late debugging each other's projects. I even built my first game on a borrowed laptop. Mr. Torres, our teacher, pulled me aside one day. "You've got something special, Emma," he said. "Don't let anyone shrink you." By 17, I had a plan. I'd applied to college, leave Portland, and build my future from scratch. Ethan, of course, was already enrolled at an elite university in California, riding on my parents' full financial support. Then came that Thanksgiving dinner. My dad raised his glass to Ethan, making us proud at Stanford. Tears erupted. Then Mom added, "As for Emma, we're encouraging her to find steady work." My uncle cracked, "We're hiring dishwashers at the diner." The whole table laughed, including my parents. I didn't laugh. What they didn't know was that I'd already secured a full ride to a top-tier tech program in Massachusetts. Tuition, housing, even a stipend, all covered. I packed up quietly and moved into a dorm in Cambridge, waitressed part-time, graduated top of my class, landed a dream job at a cybersecurity firm before the ink was dry on my diploma. 5 years later, I'd just led a multi-million-dollar integration for a global bank. The bonus? Enough to buy a brownstone, so I called a realtor. Within a few days, my realtor found it, the perfect brownstone condo in Back Bay. 2 bedrooms, sleek kitchen, exposed brick, close to the park. At 33, I officially became a homeowner. 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, I hosted a small housewarming to my real friends, the ones who'd seen me pull all-nighters, cry over failed code, and still show up every day. We sat on floor cushions with Thai takeout and cheap wine, surrounded by unpacked boxes and laughter. Clara raised her glass. To Emma, she said, "The quiet one who turned silence into power." 3 clinked glasses. I smiled, but a thought lingered. I was going home in a week. "You sure you're doing this?" Clara asked, her voice low as she helped me clear the dishes. They don't deserve you. I nodded, gripping a plate too tightly. I need to see it through. Just once. The week before Thanksgiving, I took time off work, wrapped simple but thoughtful gifts, and drove the 7 hours back to my childhood neighborhood in North Portland. The house hadn't aged well, faded siding, overgrown hedges, and a porch light that flickered like a dying memory. I rang the doorbell with trembling hand. Footstep. Then the door creaked open. Emma. My mother blinked. Wow, it's really you. It gave me a brief, stiff hug. You look different. Inside, the scent hit me. Old wood polish, stale air, and that ever-present bowl of dried pottery. The living room was packed. Conversations halted as eyes turned toward me. Well, look who finally showed up, someone muttered. Is she wearing sweats? Another whispered. Then Ethan emerged from the kitchen, beaming. Everyone, this is Ava, my wife, and... He gestured at her belly. A future niece or nephew. Congratulations, I said. He smirked. Still coding in a corner somewhere? Still chasing dreams you can't fund? I shot back, my voice steady but sharp. His smirk faltered, but he recovered quickly, laughing it off. Laughter rippled. I felt my jaw tighten. I work in tech, I replied. If you've ever returned home with more power than they imagined, hit subscribe because the next part of the story is where everything changes. Tech, huh? Ethan smirked, like fixing printers or answering help desk calls. He turned to Ava. Emma was always the weird one, probably working out of some basement somewhere. Funny, I said, my tone icy. Last I checked, basements don't pay for brownstone. His eyes narrowed, but he didn't bite back. Not yet. I just smiled faintly. Something like that. Mom clapped her hands. Dinner will be ready soon. Emma, put your things down. Ethan's using your old room as his office now, so you'll be sleeping on the couch. Of course he was. Of course I would be. The night was a slow drip of condescension. Aunt Ellen cornered me by the sad bowl of punch. Your brother's starting his own business. He's such a visionary, and you're still in computers. I analyze data, I replied. She scrunched her nose. Well, someone has to do the boring stuff. Uncle Tom leaned over during dinner prep. Dishwasher position still open at my diner. Pays minimum wage, but it's honest. Thanks, I said politely. I'm good. He's sure? He pressed, his tone mocking. Not everyone's cut out for the big city. I met his gaze. I closed on a condo last week. I'm doing fine. He blinked, speechless for once. At dinner, they set me at the far end of the table next to the kitchen door. Ethan predictably held the startup capital to launch. How much? Dad asked. $250,000, 0 cents to get rolling, Ethan said casually. I nearly choked on my water. It was every cliché failed startup pitch I'd ever heard. We'll figure something out, Mom said, patting his hand. Family helps family. I stayed silent, but my grip on the fork tightened. They hadn't even asked how I was doing, yet here they were, planning to bankroll another of Ethan's pipe dreams. After dinner, she handed me a blanket and gestured toward the couch. Thanksgiving morning came, with Ethan and Ava storming down the stairs like kids, presents piled high. They unwrapped mine. Luxury gifts thoughtfully chosen. Emma, these are beautiful, Mom gasped, holding up her new bag. But when it came to my turn? Oh no, Mom gasped too loudly. Emma, we completely forgot, Ethan burst out laughing, just like when we were kids. Don't cry this time, he smirked. You're an adult now. Forgot? I said, my voice dangerously calm. Or did you just decide I wasn't worth the effort? The room froze. Mom's smile wavered. Emma, don't make a scene, she hissed. I'm not, I said. I'm just stating fact. Something shifted inside me. Not sadness, not anger, just clarity. I'm not going to cry, I said evenly, reaching into my purse. Actually, I bought myself a pretty great gift this year. I pulled out my keychain and held it up. The brushed steel caught the light. Mom frowned. What's that? Keys, I said simply. To my new apartment. I closed on it last week. Violet blinked. You bought an apartment? With what money? From my job, I said. My company just licensed a cybersecurity framework I built to a major international bank. My cut was solid. Mom's eyes narrowed. How solid? I shrugged. About $175,000, 0 cents after taxes. You could have heard a fork drop. Ethan's mouth hung open. Ava's eyes widened. Mom and Dad stared like I'd finessed living a double life. $175,000? 0 cents, Mom repeated, her voice pitching up. What kind of job pays bonuses like that? I told you, I said calmly. I'm a data scientist. I build enterprise security systems for Fortune 500 clients. Dad leaned in. How long have you been earning this kind of money? 6 figures? Ethan spat, his voice laced with disbelief. And you never thought to help us out? I turned to him, unflinching. Help you? Like you helped me when I was scraping by in college. Or when you got a car while I got a used sweater? His face reddened, but he didn't respond. That's when the switch flipped. Mom stood up, all sunshine and sugar. Sweetheart, why didn't you tell us? We're so proud of you, Dad chimed in. Ethan, did you hear that? Your sister works with Fortune 500 companies. Ethan's jaw clenched. Ava leaned in, whispering something into his ear. Mom perched beside me. So, tell us about this apartment. How many bedrooms? 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, back bay, close to work, I said. She beamed. We should visit. Families should stick together. I stared at her, incredulous. Family? You didn't call me for 7 years. You forgot my gift but remembered Ethan's. Where was family then? She flinched, but her smile didn't waver. Emma, let's not dwell on the past, she said sweetly. We're here now. Actually, I said, standing. I've got a long drive ahead. Mom reached for my arm. You just got here. Stay. Dad nodded. We haven't even talked about your career. We haven't talked about me at all, I said, my voice cutting through the room. You didn't ask about my life, my work, or why I left. You just want something now that you know I have it. As I packed, I could hear them whispering, voices hushed and urgent. When I came back downstairs, suitcase in hand, they were waiting. Those eager, strained smiles already setting off alarm bells. Before you head out, Dad said, stepping forward, we should talk about Ethan's business opportunity. As you mentioned, he needs a little capital to get started. Ethan smiled like he was doing me a favor. It's a solid investment. You'd be in on the ground floor. How much? I asked flatly. Just $250,000, 0 cents, he said. With what you make, that's nothing, right? Nothing, I said, my voice low and dangerous. You think $250,000, 0 cents is nothing because I earned it? You never lifted a finger for me, Ethan. None of you did. I looked at them, my parents, who once laughed when Uncle Tom offered me a dishwashing job, my brother, who spent a lifetime mocking me, and his wife, who chuckled along just yesterday morning. No, I said. The smiles vanished. What do you mean, no? Mom snapped. I mean, I'm not giving you any money. But we're family, Dad said, as if the word held any weight. I folded my arms. Where was family when I was told to find my own place the day after graduation, or when you paid for Ethan's college but left me to figure it out alone? That was different, Mom said. We didn't have money back then. You had money for Ethan, I said. Ethan showed promise, she barked, then immediately backtracked. I mean, we thought work would be better for you. Promise? I said, my voice rising for the first time. I built a career from nothing while you poured everything into him, and now you think you can guilt me into funding his failure? Ethan's face twisted. You've always been jealous, he snarled. You think you're better than us because you've got money now? I stepped closer, unflinching. I'm not better than you, Ethan. I'm done with you. I grabbed my bag. I need to go. You selfish brat, Ethan exploded. After everything this family did for you. What did you do? I asked. Raise me? Feed me? That's parenting, not charity, and you made sure I knew I wasn't wanted. I walked to the door as they followed, still protesting. You'll regret this, Mom shouted. I won't, I said, and meant it. By the time I hit the highway, my phone lit up. Calls, texts, guilt trips. I blocked them all at a rest stop. Back in Boston, I poured a glass of wine and watched the city glow from my balcony. Sophie texted, Heard what happened. Sorry about them. Don't be, I replied. This was the best gift they ever gave me. Freedom. She sent back a laughing emoji. Your mom's telling everyone you're ungrateful. Letter, I wrote back. That night, I slept better than I had in years. The next morning, I woke to a flood of messages, but not from my parents or Ethan. These were from aunts, uncles, and cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. Your mother told us what happened. How could you abandon your family? Ethan is trying to build something. You should support him. We always knew you were selfish. One message from Aunt Ellen stood out. You think you're too good for us now, Emma? Money doesn't buy family, I laughed bitterly. No, but it buys peace, I muttered, blocking her number. One by one, I blocked them. Every name, every guilt trip, gone. Except for Sophie. She called that afternoon. Jesus, Emma, she sighed, the whole family's imploding. Your mom called everyone, saying you're rich and won't help Ethan. Good for her, I said dryly. She's telling people you've forgotten where you came from. Of course she is. God forbid they admit the daughter they ignored actually did something with her life. Sophie's voice softened. I'm proud of you. For what it's worth. It's worth a lot, I told her. You're the only one I care to keep in touch with. Are you really okay cutting everyone else off? This made it official. That night, I sat alone in my condo, the silence no longer heavy but freeing. I opened my laptop and drafted an email to Sophie, the only one who'd ever checked on me without an agenda. I'm done letting them define me, I wrote. They wanted me invisible, but I'm not. Not anymore. I hit send, feeling lighter than I ever had. I met my friends at our usual spot in Back Bay, a cozy wine bar with worn leather boots and fairy lights over the bar. I told them everything. Good riddance, Clara said. They sound toxic as hell. Do you think you'll miss them? Another friend asked. I thought about it. No, I think I've been mourning the family I never had. This just closed the book. I raised my glass. To chosen family, they echoed, smiling. As we toasted, my phone buzzed. An unknown number. I switched it to silent. 6 months later, summer had wrapped the city in sunlight. I sat on my balcony, coffee in hand, watching the morning unfold below. It felt like emerging from a fog I hadn't realized I'd been living in. Sophie still called weekly with updates. Not because I asked, but because she cared. Ethan's daughter was born last month, she told me. Isabel. Oh, that's nice, I said, and meant it. I hoped that little girl would be loved better than I was. According to Sophie, Ethan and Ava were still living with my parents. The big startup still just talk. Even the relatives were getting tired of hearing about it. Apparently, my parents had turned my betrayal into their favorite sob story. At every family gathering, they painted me as the ungrateful daughter who vanished despite all their sacrifices. They're saying you're heartless, Sophie told me during one call. You turned your back on them when they needed you most. I laughed softly. Needed me? They needed my bank account. There's a difference. Meanwhile, my life had taken a turn I wouldn't trade for anything. 3 months after that disastrous Thanksgiving, I met Noah at a coffee shop near my office. A freelance designer with a gentle smile and a deep respect for boundaries, he understood the tech world and, more importantly, understood what it meant to walk away from a toxic family. He had done it too. They'll never see you, Noah said one night, his hand resting on mine. Not the way you deserve. But I do. I squeezed his hand, my heart full. That's enough for me. Work was thriving. I'd been promoted to lead data scientist for a major AI security integration. The pay raise was great, but what thrilled me more was the freedom to build something groundbreaking. My team respected me. My ideas mattered. I was finally building the kind of life I used to dream about from a lumpy couch in my parents' basement. About a month ago, Ethan somehow got hold of a new number and called. Hey, Emma, he said awkwardly, chipper. Thought we could catch up. What do you want? I asked, curt. Isabel should meet her aunt. Things are tight right now. Mom and Dad's house needs work. No, you don't even know how much. Doesn't matter, he exploded. You're unbelievable, Emma. You think you're above us now, don't you? I didn't flinch. I'm not above you, Ethan. I'm free of you. I hung up, blocked the number, and as I sat there in my own apartment sipping coffee beside Noah, I felt nothing but peace. A week later, Sophie called with news. Ethan tried to pitch his startup to some investors. It fell apart. He mentioned your name, said you were supposed to fund it. I snorted. He's delusional. Sophie sighed. They're desperate, Emma. They're even talking about selling the house. I paused, waiting for the guilt to hit. It didn't. They made their choices, I said. So did I. Everything they said I'd never have. Love, stability, success. I built on my own terms. Sophie later mentioned they were turning my old bedroom into a nursery. It didn't sting. That room never felt like mine. This one does. They still tried reaching me through distant cousins and family friends. My favorite was Aunt Ellen's voicemail. Family is forever, Emma. I played it for Noah, who laughed. Funny how they only remember you when they need cash. But I'd already walked away, and I wasn't turning back. Noah and I were planning a trip to Japan next month. We'd been learning the language, mapping temples, and bookmarking noodle shops. Sophie messaged me. Mom saw your post. She says it's typical. You'd rather vacation than help family. Good, I said. Maybe she'll finally get it. Last week I was promoted to head of data science, top 1% salary. My boss said, "You earned this." We celebrated with friends, Clara joked. Your mom probably sensed your bank balance went up that night. No brought champagne to the balcony. Let's buy a house, I said, with space, a yard, maybe a dog. My phone buzzed. Sophie again. Mom says you must be a drug dealer. I laughed. Let them spin their stories. I'm living mine. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment. Tell me what you walked away from, what peace you built. Your support reminds me that I'm not alone. And maybe you need that reminder too. My advice? Don't wait for permission to choose yourself. Build the life that reflects your worth, not their expectations. And if you relate, hit subscribe.